Roman 6 Prologue, from the Annals of the Arcturian Archive. Even so, it was another 100 years of spotty contact with Aka IV before it became evident to us that his original, optimistic perception of Velatropa 24.3 as an art planet might be valid after all. Finally, from a site called Angkor, the Punta Jarpa manifestation of Aka IV signaled us to be on intervention standby. It is here that our interplanetary fable, the making of the fifth ring, be best left to unfold on its own. Fortunately, we have a series of taped transmissions which tell that story better than we ever could. So now listen to this tale, recounting in fine form how Velatropa 24.3 got its rings. Beamed by lovers on that blue and gleaming orb, too many star meters distant to be measured, we, the ancient ones of the Arcturian archives, followers of the Galactic warrior lord, Aka IV, have only proceeded, allowing others far more poignant and keen of their own hearts to tell the bold and daring acts trident sprung from listless war to spring to art that eerie, twinkled sphere, 3 orbits out from Velatropa 24. Called by them Earth, its human passage had gyred 4 rings, yet lacked a 5th, and lacking such, lacked all unity, stellar visibility, and galactic accountability. And so this tale unfolds by 2 hearts interwoven. Chapter splitting apart. Prospero's tape log, the El Dorado Station. Entry number 24.36, El Dorado Monitoring Station. Rocky Mountain Sector, 240 AH. For some time now, I've been alone in this monitoring station. I guess the Caribbean War has escalated to a major degree. Our network has been jammed for 3 months now. The last report I got was from the Tikal mission in Guatemala. They were monitoring bulletins from the Egyptian mission, headed by Abdul Rumi Hassan and Chandrasekhar. From that last report, I was able to place 3 more coordinates on the radiosonic beam that operates from El Dorado Mountain just south of here. The harmonics still aren't complete, though the broadcast has been helpful in keeping some sense of order up here. 3 times a week I make that broadcast. The initial electromagnetic screen ray oscillates for just over an hour, but that's enough time for the biopsychic receptors to receive a charge that stimulates the harmonic network of the neural infrastructure for at least 48 hours. Gruber, the old man who runs the Eco Squad supply station in El Dorado, came up last week and told me that the Gulf Coast had been swept by heavy laser bombardments. That means that all 3 coasts have now been ravaged by laser attacks. Refugees have been trickling into Denver for at least 2 months. If this turns out to be anything like the Atlantic siege, then we can expect another half-year of blackouts. I don't know how long I'll be able to hold out here. I'm not even sure right now where I would go if I did get out of here. Whatever the case may be, the Caribbean War marks the end of a 10-year lull. That was a good period. 10 years ago, that was 230 AH. I was 27, just a few years out of training which I did at the Angkor Wat terminal. Though the effects of the Atlantic siege were still being cleaned up, things in the Pacific Asian sector were calm. Not that anyone was fooled by that calm. That's how the polar rhythm has worked for the last 100 years. First it's the Eastern Hemisphere, then the West, then the Southern Hemisphere, followed by blowouts in the North. The syndicate manages it pretty well that way. A simultaneous polar blowout would put them out of business too. But back to Angkor Wat Terminal. Those were great days. My mother, who had been a field worker in the East Pacific, Psychoaesthetic Service Corps, was able to use her influence to get me registered in Angkor, despite the fact that it was totally out of her sector. I was just 15 when she first accompanied me there. The ancient landing strip awaited us, a sooty white band waiting to be devoured by lush jungle. The refurbished golden towers of Angkor gleamed in the distance. A smoky violet haze stretched in a thin bank across the horizon effects of the thermochemical anti-mutation experiments conducted there for almost a century. My mother, Tara Andromeda Jones, must have been about 40 at the time. I was at just the age to appreciate that she was a stunningly beautiful woman, and that she was probably more woman than she was mother. African-styled hair framed her flat-boned face with an aura of luxuriant dark curls highlighted by brief streaks of red. She ceased being mother and became woman when she greeted my first tutor, Puntit Jarpajayavarman. Coming off the landing craft, she stopped dead in her tracks. Her face became calm, then profoundly pensive. A slight tick pulled at her face just beneath her full, sensuous peach blossom-colored lips. I knew that tick. It happened to her whenever anything important was about to occur. I felt her energy narrowing down to a thin, highly concentrated beam. Following that beam from her eyes, I saw that it led directly to the eyes of Puntit Jarpajayavarman. I remember thinking to myself, very clearly, precisely, this Jayavarman and my mother, they have a pure connection. This can only be good for me. Puntit Jarpajayavarman was older than my mother, though it was hard to tell how much older. Maybe he was 45 then. He never really did tell me his age. Too sly. His head was topped by a full head of bushy, curly hair, much of it now steel gray. His face was quite dark, glistening in the tropic sun. His typically Australian nostrils radiated a massive sensitivity. They seemed to quiver and flare to an extraordinarily subtle rhythm. His clean-shaven face rested like a reassuring weight atop a brilliantly colored but etherically textured gold tunic. His whole appearance was nothing less than dazzling. Gold, Puntit Jarpa later told me. The map of history is inscribed by the search for gold. Puny little grains sparkling in a stream. Why should people kill each other for that? No, that's not it. Our nature itself is gold. When neurosis happens, the inner gold becomes invisible, and we greedily search for it outside. But it is true, our nature is pure gold. For my mother, my education in Angkor Wat was the instrument of her destiny. Puntit Jarpa was the man, the romance she had been waiting for. During the days, as my chief tutor, Puntit Jarpa regaled me with the key points of global psychodynamics, from the beginnings of the Holocene era to Hiroshima. Once I understood these points, we would go on to a study of the intricate relations between the Planet Art Network and the Syndicate for Material Evolution from their inception, some 100 years after Hiroshima, to the present. But I saw just as much of Puntit Jarpa in the evenings as during the day. My mother had but a 6-month leave in Angkor, and upon meeting this golden descendant of Australia, she was going to savor every moment of her stay. I don't know why I'm putting all of this personal material down. Perhaps because of the total uncertainty with which I'm faced. Though I must add that reading some of the previous reports from this monitoring station have encouraged me to wax on in such a personal vein. There is something totally heartening in those earlier reports. I mean, take this excerpt from tape log entry number 17.17 from the El Dorado station. It's dated 144 AH and reads, completed 96th coordinate of radiosonic beam, correlation of architectural structure of the Sun Temple of Konarak and Bach Partita for violin number 5. Filled the valley with tremendous light. Nadia stayed up with me all night during first transmission. Lying on the deck overlooking the stream bed, we made love. Our rhythms perfectly synchronized with the beam. After orgasm, we lay silently in each other's arms. The harmonic tremors did not subside for several hours. As the sunlight replaced the oscillating light of the beam, Nadia looked at me, weeping. "Now I can go," she said. At noon we arrived at the Rocky Flats departure strip. Picked up by an X-12 type hovercraft, she was gone. This evening the valley is still tender with the effects of last night's beam. A deer even came into the station. I cannot go to sleep, so I'll let the new moon entertain me, the new moon and thoughts which I can't articulate. Is it passion or the lack of it that mocks us? That was one of my predecessors at this station, Miguel Crisostemo von Meyer-Becker. He was number 17 to take charge of this station, and I'm number 24. We've all gazed at the same moon rising above the canyon, steeped in our solitude. They never leave either the other agents. Oh, physically, of course, they're all gone just as I'll be gone. But their thoughts, their feelings, their moods, they cling to the air. They seep into your dreams. They don't let you go. And to this continuum I add myself, Prospero Edmund Jones, Planet Citizen and Aesthetic Monitor rank 3. Child of Hazard, I was born 37 years ago in Mozambique. At the age of 3, my father, Nkwame Lautsu Jones, a network technician, was killed in a Syndic ambush during the Zimbabwe reconstruction. My mother's grief was matched only by her determination to persevere. Through her diplomatic skills, she was transferred to the East Pacific sector, and I completed my childhood at Shasta Abbey, on the east slope of that magnificent peak.